Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Pronago bringing you another Cos Monarchy cast, and we've got Art of Turtle taking on Shopkeeper Dog today on Gildedwall. This one should be a pretty nice little preview. We've got Shopkeeper Dog taking on Hamster as one of our quarterfinal matchups, and if you guys haven't noticed with the cast that I've been doing lately, I am attempting to give you guys good previews of all of the tournament matches that we're going to see. Where possible, I go for the matchup that they're actually going to be playing. You know, I casted a Hanmono versus Crank It Out Off-Race Protoss, right? And of course, I did end up casting a Hit 'em Up of PVZ. And now we're casting a Shopkeeper Dog, you know, A versus Z match here, which is pretty cool because we get to feature the fourth race. And yeah, I think, I'm trying to remember who else I casted earlier today. It was Arbuz versus Crank It Out, yeah. But it was a pretty good one. So it's you know, that one was a good one, even though, you know, only the inverse matchup could happen for Arbuz. But we got to see what his Protoss was looking like, so that's pretty neat. Shopkeeper Dog is having a good time over here. AOT, obviously, talking a little bit about the tournament matches that they were just, I was just referring to, and indeed, it is a Larvask into pool, so we are going to have Turtle go for a more economic-oriented opener. It looks like maybe Dog is thinking the same thing. He's gone for the Radix, and then he's gone for a landlock after the fact. So this is something that we actually saw Godwheat experimenting with a little bit when he was playing against Arbuz. He did this Radix landlock build quite a bit. So that's kind of interesting, you know, to see what's going on. A second Radix after the fact. They're pretty cheap, but they take a while to build. So that is definitely something you got to watch out for. You can see the Pilgrim is going to go ahead and use its Mining Saber to heckle the Larvask. Not really that significant, but that's okay. Second Larvask coming up. The pool's done. I guess, you know, if he's given enough time and given enough chance, he can make it back home as well. So even lost a little bit of mining time there. A little bit of disruption here and there, so not too bad. But yeah, the first missionary is out. These are the basic infantry units, the Maverick equivalent, Marine equivalent of the Escozi. You can think of them as. They're a little bit more nimble. 75 minerals cost instead of 50. When they take damage, they heal for a little bit, like a combat heal, that is required to take damage from enemies in order to proc, and during that time they move faster, so you can think of them in that way as pretty good. But they also struggle really heavily against armor. They've got no armor pen, and they shoot twice, so they're double reduced by armor. So you got to watch out for that, but obviously early Zerg units need not apply. They do not have any armor, so missionaries are pretty good against them as a result. A lot of Pilgrims just being made. I'm also always watching to see, oh yeah, look at that. We actually have a Proselyte and a second one in the queue. So Escozi Landlock, once you make a basic production structure, be it a Radix or a function, can actually produce a combat unit for you called the Proselyte, which is a unique unit that you can only make out of the Landlock or, you know, Town Center in general. And they come with a particular unit, a little subunit that they can place called an Islet. And that Islet is able to pull allies in an area towards itself, so you kind of place down a ward that has teleportation. It also has detection, so that's pretty good too. And we already have a pair of them, so each Proselyte comes with one Islet. That's the icon on the bottom right. It says Spider Mice, but that's not actually what it is. So that's why I wasn't mousing over it earlier. But yeah, you do get access to that. Pretty cool. And you can go ahead and put them down. But they also, crucially, have 3 armor pen. Can you believe that? So even though they also do 2x4 damage, they are much better at dealing with armor, but at the cost of the fact that you have to build them from the same place you build your workers, means you don't really have access to a lot of... He's making a lot of Proselytes. Gauntlet coming. What's he actually doing with them is what I wonder. Okay, Cypher as well. So this might actually be a tier 2 rush, as he hit baseline saturation on the minerals. His Pilgrim seems to have been... Oh no, that was his worker scout there. Bopped earlier. And so yeah, I mean, we have a whole lot more of these combat units here. Maybe you're wondering why Shopkeeper Dog had his units off to the side. Well, it could have been anti-drop, and AOT is indeed doing a quaz drop. So this is going to be unlucky timing here for Dog, as he has to scramble his units back up the ramp. But in the process, he's going to lose out on his building time on the Gauntlet and the Cypher. He's lost 3 workers so far. That's a successful raid from the perspective of Turtle. But look at this. The jump from the Proselyte, speeding the units over. Oh man, if only he could have dropped an Islet on one side and jumped to it, that would have been so sick. That's what I wanted to see, but he didn't have the guts, you know. As a Escozi, by the way, I'm pretty sure you can come over here and place an Islet on the other side. This is something that tech that has not yet been figured out. Obviously, you would need 2 Proselytes in order to get this tech to be then done on the other side over here. But I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. It might be a little bit finicky. It's something you need to math out in the game. That's for sure. I'm tempted to boot up a second instance while I'm casting this live and then just go ahead and check that, but I'm a wild man like that, okay, guys? So we do have 5 Islets over here. There is, of course, a quaz drop looking around to see if it can get any more value. Meanwhile, AOT, we haven't really been focusing on what he's been doing, but we did see a Shroud as Vornath he's got everything that he might need here. He's got Lake is coming for the fact that there's no proper detection here from Dog. Obviously, the islets do provide it. They are detectors, but yeah, a little bit difficult for Shopkeeper Dog to move out against this army unless he has more islets in tow. The Winged Zetracor Zerglings are, of course, the Vorvacor. They have the ability to ensnare on hit when they attack, and that ensnare also rends armor. So pretty good in that particular respect. So obviously not really that relevant to the unit that the Escozi are fielding right now, but Vicars are on the way. And these bad boys have the pull ability that the Islet has, with the added benefit of being able to move around. And they also will deal some... they basically apply a debuff to the enemy that blows up after a certain amount of time that deals some splash damage. We're going to see that in action here. Yep, that's that little flare that appeared on some of those Zerg units. So it also procs when the unit dies, if the unit gets just focused down, and it will indeed do some splash damage. It's not a lot. It's 10 per hit, or 5 per hit, but it's pretty good. So obviously is going to be something you got to watch out for. Looks like the Obelisk is going to go ahead and unload his Quas and then see what he can provide there. He's there for detection because the Chantry is a common unit here, but Shopkeeper Dog is just building prosceniums with his Dyads and keeping some units off to the side for anti-drop. He's turtling it up on the 2 base. That's what he's doing. So it's up to Turtle to have that opportunity. Play, channel his inner, what was it, Peruvian Zerg, I think was what it was called, affectionately or not, by hit him up and other players when he was first joining the project and participating. We do have a Mimic out here for some basic detection here. You can see the Vicar trying his best to dip dodging around, but not really too successful there. A Grandstand is on the way for extra defense, the defensive structure. Yeah, it's Shopkeeper Dog just trying to do what he can to keep AOT engaged. There's that 3rd base we were expecting. A Ski Back is on the way. So what we're going to see out of these prosceniums is very likely the Inimitable Aphorist. It's a splash damage unit that you can make that does deal a pretty good amount, a pretty wide radius of splash. But right about now, we actually don't see the prosceniums giving anything. Instead, it's a tier 3 tech rush. Bestiary and Conduit coming up. So you need both the Cypher and the Gauntlet to get to tier 2, which is what the proscenium is. That enables, once you build the proscenium or another structure called the Xylode, you can make your tech relays for tier 3 and then jump straight to tier 3. So yeah, Dog is really committed to not having much of anything to a committed attack. If you really indexed heavily into like Zorius here and just try to break with like a Lake is Bust, I'm pretty sure that this build fails pretty heavily. Turtle will go in for the Bactals. He is going to have to wait for them to waddle across the map, which is a little bit worrisome. But yeah, we're basically now watching with bated breath, waiting to see if Turtle can break the shell of Shopkeeper. And whether or not he's going to be able to move across the map with enough swiftness to bypass his opponent. Because he must know that he's in the midst of doing some kind of crazy move like this, right? Aphorist range at 7, obviously a little bit better than the Vicar's range of 6. We can actually see that visualized here if I hold down Shift for you guys. And so yeah, as you can see, the Mimic providing some detection. The Idols will be able to try to break that guy down. So yeah, pretty efficient so far. Obviously, gotta watch out because the Cliff advantage is what's giving him the bonus range. The Lake also has a range of 7. But Turtle's actually abandoning the position to consolidate his forces in the front line. Bactals are obviously very good versus this particular... I don't even really want to call this a composition. It's a kind of just a blob. And we do have a Latiro for the first time seeing it in a cast, I feel like. Maybe Hit 'em Up made it a while ago, but a Latiro and... Is that a Xylode, dude? What a guy. He's going to go Fontus, I think. Yeah, he's trying a different cheeky comp, I think. That's what I'm getting from this position anyway. Let's see what he ends up making out of the Latiro. My money's on Histrions. He's been talking about those in the server, so I'll get to explain what they do momentarily here. But yeah, Turtle's got some... He's got some limited time before the tier 3 units start to be leveraged. This feels like a really crazy move out, though. I mean, obviously, Turtle's got a lot of money in the bank. He hasn't really drolled very much. In the top left, he needs to be spending down. But I guess he's just thinking about what he wants to make, and it looks like Zorius. His Lake is burrowed. Definitely needs some help here. Some fire support from the Bactals. Definitely need to engage. But the boards are getting shellacked. I do love that the Aphorists have to deal with those, mid-range units, so to speak. And that little orange overlay was armor pen temporarily, so good pullback from Turtle in that respect. But definitely feels like he should have more units here, right? 8 more Bactals join the fray. He lost a lot of his Lakis, doesn't have any front line, waiting for those Zorius to show up, but it's going to be a while before they rally across the map. And he is kind of running out of time because the second Latiro is on the way. The first one just about to finish, and the Xylode is making a Fontus. An excellent choice versus Bactals, because every time the Fontus takes damage, it releases a healing pulse. There is a micro little cooldown there. but it's really, really hard to avoid providing a lot of heals with a Bactylus composition, especially if you get multiple Fontes. So right about now, Shopkeeper Dog is cowed back into his base. The Zerg obviously going up to 4, has ready saturation over here in the top left so he can get to mining and really start setting himself up for success economically. Obviously has a superior count Droleth-wise. And there's the Histrion on the way, so it is indeed that. So the Histrion can lay down or release a unit when they take damage. And that unit is similar to the Islet in the way that it deploys, and it's kind of like this sort of saucer-looking thing. Basically, what it puts down is a little ward when it takes damage, which also has an internal cooldown associated with it, similar to like the Zoryus Incubation, if you're familiar with that one. And yeah, it takes damage, it releases one of those units, and ta-da, you have yourself basically a stationary mimic. So very good unit in that respect. Obviously capable of cloning a lot of damage. And that's supposed to be the force multiplier here. Dude, we even have... He's making a Petract! Nobody makes the Petract, dude. What is he thinking? Multiple Fontes have arrived. The heavy walkers there. Zoryus off to the side. They definitely need to be committed a little bit more heavily. And the Bactyls are way out of sync with the rest of the army, so not engaged very well. The Zoryus committing itself to attacking the Fontes. That feels like it should have been a focus there from Turtle, but instead, he allows the Fontes to start healing things up again. Now, when the Fontes gets hit enough times, that actually pulls units into itself, hostile units into itself, so that can also be an asset here when you're trying to deal with the Bactyls. But yeah, there's just no front line anymore. All the Zoryus went in. 27 Hydras, 5 Bactyls in production, but there's so much money in the bank for Turtle that he hasn't actually leveraged. And now that we finally have those Fontes providing the healing, even so, it was a pretty close fight. Shopkeeper Dog built up to this composition over the course of several minutes here, uninterrupted, unimpeded. And he's just trying to power up to be as greedy as he can before his, win condition, if you will, of assembling the Fontes. Which, by the way, they didn't overperform in any particularly strong way that I thought, but Bactylisks are kind of the worst unit to deal with that. Now, this little 11 o'clock base, if you will, has been assailed, and a big flank is coming with Hydra Bactyl trying to come up the rear. This is a cliff. This is a bonus weapon range shooting down. So this feels like Shopkeeper Dog could go for a hold. He can, at the very least, though, have his reinforcements interrupted. Instead, Turtle's backing away. He wants to maybe force a base race while he sacrifices these outer lying bases, which I don't necessarily hate, but you're going to need to do something here. You made a lot of workers, and you got 4,000 minerals in the bank, boss. You got to have to make something else. Looks like he might be thinking about that Zoricors, judging by his tech choice. Is it going to be enough? That's the question. Massing back up. He's got his Histrions. He's got a few Aphorists here for that splash, and it is going to be pretty deadly to the Hydras, which are going to now start to chew through those missionaries on the front line, and the proselytes as well, which, don't get me wrong, I don't hate them, but yeah, there it is. The Ego Sense are in there. And it does look like the Bactyls are going to be cleared. He still hasn't clobbered these Aphorists in the back, dealing so much ridiculous splash damage, shooting down a cliff. Of course, that 9 o'clock base has been killed, and this feels like a pretty big tactical error set from Turtle. He's made 24 Izira cores and still has 4,000 minerals in the bank, dude. I bet you he's not that used to being in this space on the map where he's got so much money in the bank. How many times in Gildedwall in particular do we see the Zerg player get a ridiculous amount of bases? Well, this happens, and it doesn't seem like Turtle's very practiced in it. All right, the Bactyls redrawing the middle of the map here. He's still so far away from actually having the upgraded units that he needs, though. This is all Tier 1 stuff that Turtle's been massing up, and he's not even getting the creme de la creme of the Tier 1 either, versus a mostly Tier 2 army with some Tier 3 fire support from the Histrions. Down will the Fontes go. There's 2 more where that came from, though, and we still don't really have most of the Izira cores in the fight. At the very least, they can tank some of the shots. Reinforcements coming up from Shopkeeper Dog. Can this Fontes finally fall? 3 armor is doing so much heavy lifting versus the Bactyls. And of course, the Histrion with its own 3 armor at Tier 3. Just a coincidence, guys. Not really quite so intentional. And down the Ego Sense go, but there's more where that came from, coming up off the side. Trying their best to mimic nearby shots, but doesn't really matter. It doesn't feel like the answer is yes. And yeah, I mean, the 10 Zora cores are coming, but they should have been a long time ago. I think Turtle's going to get routed. His production has been in shambles, and Shopkeeper Dog just never was managed in his growth. He's got the Tets out now, but GG's going to be called, yeah. that's a wrap. Shopkeeper Dog probably feels like he should have died earlier. He's just limit testing, you know? But the limit has yet to be reached. Turtle was talking a little bit about the fact that, yeah, Shopkeeper Dog could be an opponent of his in the near future. So he's getting some practice games in just in case. But Hamster, I feel like he can take notes of that game and say, okay, spend my money. Yeah, got it. Of course, Turtle himself, just maybe trying to practice, see what the Escosi are like. Not a lot of games, not a lot of data on them. So when they tech rush like that, that's a huge knowledge check that a lot of players are just not going to have a lot of reps on. So with all that said, thanks for watching another Cosmonarchy cast featuring the new race. Very cool and exciting. I look forward to seeing them potentially put in their place this weekend, and we get a better Zerg Hamster duking it out against Shopkeeper Dog, an exciting rematch. And we'll probably let Shopkeeper Dog just sit in mystery for the rest of the week while we look at some of the other combatants that are going to be doing battle this weekend. If you want to donate towards Acropolis 4's prize pool or any other tournament that we have, streamlabs.com/pronogo is a good place to go for that. You can also go to our coffee page. Just let us know it's for the tourneys. I'll see you guys in the next video. GG.